Why is communication important in the aviation world? Advanced communication is more important now than ever due to increased air travel. At any given time, there are about 8,000 to 20,000 planes in the sky. Air traffic control is important because we can track planes, find lost aircraft, and create safer flights for people. Current technology was not available in the early days of aviation. Since 1903, when the Wright brothers made their first flight, communication has been rapidly changing. When the planes began flying, they used different ways to communicate, including colored paddles, signal flares, and hand signals. Communication and technology are constantly advancing. Things like radar, satellite, and the black box improve flight communication. One such early pilot was Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean solo on June 18, 1928. She was an experienced and adventurous pilot. In June 1937, she began a flight to become the first female pilot to fly around the world. Towards the end of the journey, she had to refuel her plane at Howland Island, which is just east of Australia. They were waiting for Earhart at the island and even were able to see her location on a tracking device for a while as she approached the island. However, Amelia never reached the island and was never seen again. Some people think that she ran out of fuel or crash-landed on an island, but no evidence has been found. With technology today, including air traffic controllers and the black box, the whereabouts of Amelia Earhart and her plane would likely have been solved. No one would wonder if she would have survived her flight today with current aviation communication. Another aviation mystery is the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, is an area of water off the coast of Bermuda in the western Atlantic Ocean. It has a reputation for ships and planes mysteriously disappearing after entering it. Approximately 75 planes and hundreds of ships have gone missing there over the last 100 years. There have also been reports on the instruments inside of aircraft going haywire and not responding appropriately. One such example is Flight 19. Flight 19 was a group of 6 aircraft and 27 Navy and Marine crewmen that disappeared on December 5, 1945, over the Bermuda Triangle. They were a group of trainee pilots that lost contact with the Naval Air Station and were never seen or heard from again. To help prevent plane crashes and solving some of these mysteries, the Federal Aviation Administration was created in 1958. The FAA was formed on August 23, 1958 by the Department of Transportation, and it is responsible for all types of aircraft in the U.S. The FAA currently employs about 11 million people. It was created to help planes fly more efficiently and get from one place to another safely. They enforce regulations including operating and maintaining aircraft. Their main goal is to make flying an aircraft safe and efficient. They develop better ways to fly aircraft and work with planes all around the globe. They have air traffic controllers constantly monitoring planes everywhere, making sure everyone is safe and things are getting where they need to go.
We interviewed Mike Bellinger, air traffic controller at Alfred Whitted Airport in St. Petersburg, Florida. He has been an air traffic controller for the past 40 years and at Alfred Whitted for 25 years. His belief is the key to air traffic control is the exchange of information between the pilot and the controller. Air traffic control has been around since 1936. Air traffic control is the people protecting planes from coming too close to each other or crashing into each other. Air traffic controllers work to protect planes from crash or failure. They work in towers called air traffic control towers and use advanced technology to find out information about a plane in the air. In these towers, they can monitor planes and their locations in a certain area and range. When a plane leaves their area of surveillance, that plane is handed off to another air traffic controller. They guide planes down to the airport and give them directions if a change in their flight is needed. They give directions in a calm, steady voice using specific aviation phraseology. Controllers are constantly giving directions and must be very focused on their work. The FAA is the main operation that controls this. Without air traffic controllers, we would not fly planes or any aircraft safely. They are essential to aviation safety and success. Other technologies that are essential to aviation safety and communication are satellite, radar, and black boxes.
Radar for aviation was invented in 1940. Radar scans for objects in an area and shows them on a digital map. This is good for getting planes to and from the airport, but it is not good for flights across water and over areas with no communication. Satellites increase the range of communication for aircraft and airport control towers. Without them, more planes would get wrong directions and they would probably go far off course. Satellite communication was first used on October 4, 1957. It helps with safety in the aircraft and makes travel quick and easy. Air traffic controllers send their messages to satellites, which then send messages to the aircraft. Satellites connect the aircraft to the airport over long distances and travel much farther than radar.
In 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 became the latest aircraft to disappear without a trace, taking 239 passengers with it. The days of invisibility, however, are almost over. Most commercial aircraft already have a system called ADS-B, which broadcasts the plane's position, altitude, and speed every few seconds. But like radar, it can only reach other planes and air traffic control centers on land. New satellite technology now makes it possible to receive signals from ADS-B anywhere, and that's launching a revolution in air travel.
The black box is a device placed in the tail of an airplane to find out what happens after a plane crash. There is one part in the cockpit to record the last 2 hours of flight audio, and then it is stored in the box in the tail in case of crash. The black box is built to withstand any type of crash, including high water pressure and extreme temperatures. One example of how a black box is used is the plane crash Flight 587 shortly after 9/11. The black box was used to determine that it was the pilot that made an error that ended up crashing the plane. The black box has a part called the Flight Data Recorder, or FDR. The FDR records everything that happens to the plane before the crash. It records things such as time, pressure, velocity, airspeed, fuel flow, vertical acceleration, and more. The black box is like a plane's journal of everything that happened before it crashed.
Recorders. The idea dates back to the 1950s when the first commercial jet had 5 accidents in its first 2 years of passenger service, and investigators realized how useful it would be to have a record of what was happening on the plane before the crash. Early generations of flight recorders etched the data onto metal foil. By the 1970s, they'd switched to magnetic tape, and by the 90s, solid-state memory chips. But overall, the concept has remained basically the same, with 2 components. The cockpit voice recorder stores the last 2 hours of sound from the cockpit and from the pilot's headset microphones on 4 different channels. In some cases, these audio recordings alone can reveal what happened, as they did when a Germanwings flight crashed into the French Alps in 2015.
How has the technology changed over the years?
It's become more of an exact science controlling airplanes because of the technology. We can see everything that's going on. The radar systems are better. We can see the airplanes all the way to the ground. We can even see them taxiing on the ground. When I first started, you would see a little dot in a radar screen, and once it got below like 500 feet, you wouldn't see it anymore. Now, instead of a dot, you get all the information about the airplane, his altitude, his call sign, his flight number, his airspeed. You get everything. You don't have to ask the pilot and guess that kind of stuff. As far as coordinating with other air traffic facilities, when I first started, everything had to be done with a phone call. You had to pick up and call the other air traffic facility, the other controller, and manually call them on a telephone. Now everything is automated. We can just type it in and light it up at the other controller's scope, and he sees it. It flashes at him, and when he acknowledges it, the flash stops, and that's how we coordinate. So it's much better than it used to be.
Air traffic control has been used for many years. It is necessary for airplanes to be able to fly safely in the sky. The improvements in air communication, such as the air traffic radar, satellites, the black box, have made it safer for people and planes. Air traffic will continue to advance and develop to help air travel become even safer in the future.